Hey guys, so today we're going to be talking about some new stuff from Charlotte Tilbury. She has just released a new eyeshadow quad and two of her eyes to mesmerize. All three of these products are limited edition. I actually just checked her website just to be sure because I noticed on the quad that we have like a little bit of a fancier graphic there. It is of course the holiday season, but I just wasn't sure if any of these things were part of her like regular line. But they are all limited edition, and I did purchase all of these off of the Charlotte Tilbury site. I'm not sure, I'll leave links down below in my description box, but I'm not sure if these are exclusive to her site at the moment, just for now, and then they'll be released like on her regular retailers like Sephora and Nordstrom at a later date. I think that's usually how it happens with her products. Let me just mention, so today I'm going to be demoing the quad. I will not be demoing the two eyes to mesmerize, but I will have swatches for you, and I will also do some comparison swatches. The reason for that is I've been doing a lot of eyeshadow swatching lately, and I still have my friendly friend here, and I just didn't want to do too much. I also have a lot of eyeshadow videos coming out this week. I have the Natasha Denona Trio Chrome palette. I have the new BK Beauty True Beauty palette, which is so exciting. And then there's some other eyeshadow palettes that I will definitely be making videos on. So I just wanted to take it like kind of easy on my eyes. So I apologize. But again, we won't be actually eye swatching the two cream shadows, but I will be demoing this quad. So this quad priced the same as all of our other quads, $53. And here is a close-up of the palette. So we have two satin shades, one matte shade, and one like flaky metallic, like high shine shade. That's the one in the bottom left-hand corner. Here are some swatches, and I just swatched the two satin shades first. I swatched that super metallic shade next to that, and then the matte shade. So that is the quad, and then let me just quickly show you the two eyes to mesmerize shades that she's come out with. First we have Copper Sunrise. Here is a close-up of that. And next we have Sunset Rose. Here is a close-up of that. This Sunset Rose definitely looks, out of the two of these, looks the most unique. And then here are swatches of the two of them. So we have Copper Sunrise on the top, and then we have Sunset Rose on the bottom. Copper Sunrise is a little bit warmer, and Sunset Rose is a little bit cooler. So I'm gonna leave all of the comparison swatches of the quad and the two eyes to mesmerize. We'll leave that to the end of the video, but let's go ahead and just jump right into the demo of this quad. So I'm gonna start with this shade over here in the top right-hand corner. And I've got a blender brush here. This is the Sonia G Classic Crease. And I'm going to place this pretty much all over the outer corner of my lid, the outer portion of my lid, and sweep it towards the center. Really beautifully pigmented. I love how easy these were to blend out. And there's something always just really beautiful about the Charlotte Tilbury satin shades. I never find that I worry about them being too shimmery. I know a lot of people worry about like shimmery shades if it's going to emphasize texture on the lids or whatever. I never ever have that thought or that worry with the Charlotte Tilbury shades. Like, they're just a really soft satin. I just think they're very, very pretty. And in fact, I prefer shades like this to do some shading and adding dimension instead of matte shades. I find matte shades sometimes can just look a little bit too drying, which I think in turn can emphasize texture as well. So I really like using a soft satin shade. Anyway, I digress. Let's move on to this shade over here, the top left-hand corner. I'm just gonna use the same brush. It probably has a little bit of that brown left over, but that's okay. I'm gonna be blending the two. And I'm gonna add this to the inner corner and blend over the top. Oh, oof, pretty. Next, I'm going to use my Sonia G Pencil 2 brush, which is like a nice chubby pencil brush, and I'm going to go into this matte shade here, and I'm going to work that into my lash line and above my lash line. Just kind of smoke it out a little bit. Nothing too crazy, nothing too smoky. Now, sometimes I have some troubles with Charlotte Tilbury shades where they always turn a little bit warmer on my lids than they appear in the pan. And even though I feel like I see a little bit of like a rustiness to it, I really didn't want it to go too orange. And I don't think it has. In fact, I feel like on my lid, it's a little bit cooler than it appears in the pan. So I'm very excited for that. I was concerned, and I definitely was keeping an eye on that. So I am pleasantly surprised. And then I'm just gonna add a bit to my lower lash line. All right, and last but not least, I'm just gonna take my finger and grab some of this super metallic shade. I don't even know how to refer to this. She calls it a super pop. I think that's a really good description of this shade. It's like a super pop because it's a lot more metallic than a lot of her topper shades in her other quads. Those have kind of like a sheer base and they just are, you know, have like a glittery effect. This is much more, well, it's much more metallic and it's much more solid. It's not as transparent. So I'm just gonna tap that right onto the center here. Ooh, wow, that has incredible impact. Wow. Yeah, I wouldn't call this like a pressed glitter necessarily. It's like a pressed foil. It's like a foily shade. Ooh, this is great for the holidays. This is beautiful. And when I use my fingers, I feel like I see one, two, like a couple of glittery fallout bits here, but nothing too crazy. So that's good too. Okay, I'm gonna finish up my eye look and then I'll give you my first impressions thoughts and then we'll get into the comparison swatches. All right, so I'm all done with my face. Let me give you my first impressions thoughts of this quad. I think the formula is great. All four of the shades I think worked the way I expected them to work. The satins were super smooth and buttery. They just blended out and into one another seamlessly. They had just enough shine, not too much, like I already mentioned. The matte shade is great. It worked beautifully to kind of just deepen up my lash line. I, you know, dragged it along my lower lash line. I'm still trying to decide though if the shade makes me look sick, like if it's one of those colors. I think it's deep enough where from far away it just kind of looks like a reddish brown. At the moment, I'm okay with it. At the moment, I don't think that it makes me look ill in any way. That topper shade is gorgeous, and I'm really glad that they changed that up a little bit, especially for the holidays, and they included something with a lot more shine instead of like those little sparkly bits in that very kind of transparent base. This is really high impact and I think very, very pretty. Now, as for this color story, is it earth-shattering? Is it completely innovative? No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think the shades are fairly ordinary. You could probably dupe out every single one, but I really love Charlotte Tilbury quads. I really like her. I mean, you know, I think I could say that about most of her makeup line, that they're very, very easy to use. And that's what I think is really the appeal to Charlotte Tilbury, that everything is really easy. Out of most of her quads, I mean, maybe not those palette of pops, the ones that have like 4 like highly metallic or topper shades in there, I think those are great for pairing. But all of her other quads, the ones that have like a variety of formulas in there, I just think they're just so easy to use. You instantly get a look that makes you look polished, that allows you to go from day to night, because I feel like even though this is quite sparkly, I don't think I would feel self-conscious wearing this to the office. And then, you know, if I were to go out for cocktails or something afterwards, I feel like this is totally appropriate. And that is really the appeal to Charlotte Tilbury, I think, is that her products are just really easy to use and you're guaranteed to look polished. So those are my thoughts on this quad. And as for her eyes to mesmerize, I haven't gotten a chance to use these. I won't be eye swatching them today, I apologize. But if these are the same formula as they have been, I don't think that they've changed at all. They feel the same, they look the same. I really enjoy them. I think they're great one and done shadows, which you guys know I really, really love. And yeah, they work beautifully for me. They don't migrate on my eyes. They don't crease on my eyes. I know I've heard people talk about that happening on their eyelids. I don't have oily eyelids, so maybe that's the difference. But these work beautifully for me. So why don't we go ahead and jump into some comparison swatches, because I know you guys are probably very curious if this quad is a little too similar to some other Charlotte Tilbury quads. All right, so let's do comparison swatches of the Eyes to Mesmerize first. So here are the swatches. I have the new Copper Sunrise all the way on the left. Next to that, I have the new Sunset Rose. So those are the two new ones. And then next to that, I have Star Gold, which is this guy right here. It's a little bit more yellow than the Copper Sunrise. It's about the same kind of level of warmth, but the tone is just a little bit different. And then next we have Bet, and here is Bet. And Bet is a little bit more neutral than either Copper Sunrise or Sunset Rose. It's a little bit more of like a brownish gold. And then finally we have Rose Gold, and this is the lightest out of all the ones I have. It's like a light hybrid between the new Copper Sunrise and the Sunset Rose. I feel like if you combine those two and made it just a little bit lighter, you would end up with this Rose Gold. So those are all of the eyes to mesmerize that I have. I was actually surprised I only had 3 other ones. Anyway, those are all the ones that I have. Those are all the comparisons I have for you. Let's go ahead and move on to the luxury eye palette. So in all of these swatch pictures, I do have the new Fire Rose quad swatched all the way on the left. Those are the first 4 swatches that you're gonna see. The first quad that I thought of is the Dreamgasm palette. And I just find the entire color story of Dreamgasm to just be a lot lighter and brighter. I would say it's a little bit more daytime versus this Fire Rose palette. So in my mind, I thought maybe they were a little bit similar, but really swatched out, they're not that similar. And that top shade in the Dreamgasm palette has like this putty texture, and it definitely has that kind of glittery top coat feel versus the gold shade in Fire Rose. Next up, I thought I would go ahead and compare it to Mesmerizing Maroon, even though I knew Mesmerizing Maroon was going to be a lot more purple, maroon toned than Fire Rose, but I thought maybe this matte color would be kind of similar, and not really. So these two are quite different because of how pink and purple the Mesmerizing Maroon is. And then next up, I thought I'd compare it to Walk of Shame, which, much like Dreamgasm, is just lighter and brighter overall. And it's also a little bit warmer, especially with this kind of copper shade in the upper right-hand corner. So again, I thought, you know, like in my mind's eye, I thought, oh, maybe there's like a little similarity there, but not really. Maybe with the lighter shades, but again, the gold in Fire Rose is quite different from any of these other pop shades in her quads. And then last but not least, I thought I would compare it to Dolce Vita, and this, it's just different. I think what I love about Dolce Vita, and I know this is about Fire Rose, but what I love about Dolce Vita is that we have this like neutral kind of understated color story, but when you put this on, and definitely when you swatch it or whatever, what you see is like how sexy it is. It's so interesting because I remember when I first purchased this, I thought, oh, this will be a great daytime palette. But every time I put it on, I ended up with this really kind of like smoky, sultry kind of look. And so I find this one to just be a little bit more serious, if you will, versus the Fire Rose, where the Fire Rose, I feel like definitely, you know, is a great holiday palette. It just is a lot more fun. It's a little bit brighter than Dolce Vita, especially with that red and then with the gold. It's just more festive. So those were the 4 palettes in my collection that were even remotely close. All the others were really, really quite different. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you did. If you have any questions, please leave them down below in the comments section. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in my next video.